Hi, it's Terri Murphy with Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and one of my favorite segments, In the Men's Room with Murph. And I've got Cleve Gaddis, Master Coach with Workman Success Systems, speaker and consultant and trainer on the whole coronavirus and how the virtual world of real estate has been turned on a really fast pivot. But what we say there is pivot goes to bounce, and you're talking about being the master of virtual real estate, how differently we approached it. But what we always did, only now we have to look at new ways to do that. And that's one of the things we talk about, going from roadblock to rabbit hole. What are you doing? Because it's never going to revert back to the way it was, just like nobody's going to stop using their cell phones or their microwaves. So you join us from Atlanta. You've got a radio show. You help lots and lots of people, both realtors, the consumers, and teams.
I try.
One of the most important things is right now is, it's a different normal. And we've got team members that are out there, and we want to manage them. One of the most articulate things you talked about earlier in a segment was mastering the head game, understanding that people are still listing and selling, and they're moving, and there are statistics that can prove that. And the most important point I think you made was talking about what it does to your mindset. Because if you have to prove to yourself, because it's real easy to say nobody's moving, nobody's showing houses, nobody wants to go in them.
Right.
Not true. So tell us a little bit more about that mindset as it goes to team member management.
Our jobs as team leaders is to paint a very clear picture of the future for our agents. If we leave team members alone, they're not bad people, but they hear enough on the news. I mean, if you turned on any of the major news channels, it looks like the world's coming to an end fairly quickly, which, by the way, when I drive down the street in Metro Atlanta, it looks exactly the same as it did. In fact, it's prettier now than it was 6 weeks ago because we're through the spring and everything is absolutely beautiful. And so we have to help team members see the opportunities that they might not see on their own. So one of the things that we recommend is that you as a leader, you have your finger on the pulse of your market. How many new properties are being listed every week? How many prices are being decreased every single week? How many homes are going pending or under contract, and how many homes are closing? I would say, Terry, that one of the most restrictive geographic areas in the country was Michigan. Certainly New York would follow, would be exactly the same. So New York and Michigan. And way more than 0 houses are being listed and sold in those areas, even though business has been totally shut down. So I did some research the other day, and certainly there's not as many listings going into listing services in Michigan as there otherwise would be, but there's 32% of the same number of listings that would have been listed last year, which means somebody's doing some business. And so what we have to help our agents understand, and really anybody around us understand, is that the river of real estate continues to run. People who need to sell will figure out a way to do it. People who need to buy will figure out a way to do it. And if we feel some responsibility to help them, especially if we feel it's our responsibility to help them make the best decisions, we can't let them run off without us. So we have to figure out a way to help them. And in the virtual world is the best way to do it.
So as a team leader, what are you doing differently with the whole remote thing where people are working independently from home?
It makes it better. It doesn't make it worse. It makes it better. And let me tell you why. So if you have everybody together, can we just talk about accountability from a lead flow standpoint? Would it be
Please.
okay?
Absolutely.
Because I think that's what everybody worries about, right? I got 100 leads and none of them are any good. I can't move them forward. So first of all, you have everybody together on a Zoom meeting or whatever your preferred platform is, everybody on video, everybody on audio, everybody knows how to share their screen and demonstrate what's going on. So this is the process we've been following, Terry, and it is amazing to watch what happens to the agents when you do this level. I'm not going to call it accountability. I'm going to call it when you create this level of awareness, okay? And so here's the way it works. Would you mind if you and I kind of played through like you were my agent and I was the team leader?
If I was that lucky, yes.
Well, come on, girl. You are hired immediately. We will rush your application through to get you on our team. So here's what we're going to do. So you and I are on a Zoom meeting. We're in front of all of our team members. And now it's your turn for us to talk about your lead awareness and accountability. So the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to pull up what's called a lead tracker. You are not me. You're going to share your screen, you're going to pull up the lead tracker, and you're going to talk about every lead or handoff that you were given last week. Were you able to meet with the person face-to-face, even if it was virtually? What are you doing to move forward? The ones you weren't able to meet with, what are we doing to try to move them forward? It's amazing to watch that process. Then, so let's say you got 10 leads last week. Now we're going to go over to your CRM, which could be RealVolve or Boomtown or Synced or whoever it is, and we're going to look and see if all 10 of those leads were entered into your CRM. And they're ready to go with follow-up plans, categorized correctly, the whole 9 yards.
When you say categorized correctly, why don't you explain what that means?
People use all different types of ways of categorizing leads. We teach what's called the ABCs of lead management. A lead that is categorized as an A would be the equivalent of a hot in most CRM system, which means they're ready to buy or sell immediately and you have an appointment with them. A B, which would be more of a nurture in a lot of CRM systems, would be somebody who's ready to buy or sell in the next 90 days, and you follow up with them twice a month during the week of the 1st and the 15th. Someone who is a C is someone who's ready to buy or sell in longer than 90 days. And what's interesting is, Terry, 16 years is longer than 90 days, which means anybody that's going to buy or sell longer than 90 days is a C, and we follow up with them once a month during the week of the 8th. So they go into the CRM and they get categorized correctly, and we launch an action plan for the follow-up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and does the follow-up just phone calls, or is it multi-channeled?
It's everything. So the follow-up plans for us remind us to reach out with an activity, meaning it might be an email one time, it might be a text one time, it might be a phone call, it might be all three as part of the same one. The key, Terry, is to make sure that you are providing them something of value instead of just trying to sell them at home. So let me give you an example. If you came into my website 90 days ago and you were looking for a property at 1234 First Street, if I continue to follow up with you and ask you if you want to see the property at 1234 First Street, eventually you're going to think I'm crazy because you didn't want to see it the first time I've called. You certainly don't want to see it the sixth time I've called. So you can follow up either property specific or market specific. And so what happens is if you can't follow up on a specific property, then you must follow up on something to do with the market. So let me give you an example. And this sounds weird, but you came in 90 days ago on 1234 First Street. I followed up with you for a couple of weeks. I couldn't get you to go see the property. Now I've changed my follow-up in its general market. So right now, I want to tell you about the forbearance programs that are available through the CARES Act. And so I send you a text that says, hey, don't know if you or anybody you know needs to understand more about forbearance. But click on this and it'll take you to an article. Don't let anybody agree to a forbearance program until they read this. That is the kind of follow-up that we need to be making during today's market. That's what we need to do.
That makes you that celebrity authority. So what you're saying is when you're a team leader,
yep,
helping people be aware of the process, the structure, and the habits that create the relationships. Because, you know, in the old days, people walked in. Nobody walks in anymore. And so you've got to have a system.
Unless they're lost. Or drunk.
Or they knock on your door at home. Yeah, right. So it's a different setup. And when we give people structure, especially as entrepreneurs, you and I both know this, you know, entrepreneurs are all about passion, but that doesn't pay. You've got to have some systems and structure underneath what you do every day that moves that needle forward. And like you said, when you really become accountable, makes sense.
You just said something that is so significant that I'll guarantee you very few people got. An entrepreneur's personality is not well suited to the discipline of the follow-up that needs to be done to be successful. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. So let me hit two more important pieces if I could. So first of all, we're doing meetings. We have everybody on Zoom. We're letting them share so we can see their lead flow. We can see their CRM. We can see how things are categorized, whether or not they're following up. So then we do what we call a double loop, and this is the key. First, we loop back 7 days before and we look at all the leads from last week and we just pick one that generally we know they have not converted and we get them to talk about that. We look it up in the CRM. We see what action plans are launched. We see when the person is visiting our website. And then we do that second loop and we go back 30 days before. So in one, and we'll do it all in like 7 or 8 minutes. In one session with you talking about your leads, we talk about everything from this week, one thing from the prior week, and one thing from 4 weeks back. And we start to create that awareness in how they're supposed to have a plan for everybody to move them forward. And then we give them a very specific definition of what is an up-to-date CRM. We can talk about that on a later call because I know we won't have too much time today, but we just try to help them understand how should they be benchmarking themselves? How should they measure themselves in their performance?
And as a strong leader, you can help them with that. So if then they have the belief factor that these things are convertible, because you hear all the time, as recently as yesterday, oh, all the leads are bad.
Yep. So here's the deal. And I just have to close with this. We bought some artificial intelligence 3 years ago when it didn't work. And so I gave every single one of my agents a list of 100 people that were in their lead flow that were most likely to buy. Each one of those agents sold somewhere between 4 and 6 houses to people on that list. And I'm going to tell you, Terry, it was not because those people were more ready to buy. It was because those agents had a place to focus. And so as team leaders, it is our responsibility to show people what the future looks like. And so what I would tell you, Terry, is that if you got 100 leads, I expect you to meet with 15 of those face-to-face. And I expect you to sell 30% of the ones you meet with face-to-face, which means I expect you to sell 4 homes out of 100. Now, the truth is that's not the way it's going to work. You might sell 2 homes or you might sell 3 homes, but you're going to sell a lot more if I help you benchmark and set the right expectation, because you're going to continue to dig and dig and dig and dig until you make it work. That's what I mean by saying you have to project out for somebody the future.
Where did you get that 15? I mean, where did that come from? Is it just from statistically showing what's happening?
So our face-to-face, our lead flow to handoff ratio for our team is always between 12 and 15%, which means if 100 leads flow in, we give 12 to 15 to agents to work. And then they'll meet with about 85% of those face-to-face, and they'll sell 18 to 20%. We set the benchmark at 30% because we need to give them something to shoot for that's a little higher than reality.
And that's because you've been tracking every lead. So I think the one thing as a broker owner or a manager, team leader has to hear is that when you start getting very granular with each lead, what it costs, the time to convert it, it really gives you a very clear picture of your investment and your return on that investment. And as a team leader, and like you said, most entrepreneurs definitely have, the high eye without the detail. And when you offer a system to measure, even if they hand it off to someone who loves that kind of stuff,
yes,
we get real measurement. Like we say, we want to measure, right? What we expect. And so there you go. You've just given us a great framework.
And let me give you 2 things to close on. Number 1, they will never, let me repeat, never, 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 never get it all right. It's not humanly possible to get it all right. And number 2, you will always, 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 always have to follow up. So just understand those 2 things as a business leader. They're never going to get it exactly right, and I'm always going to have to follow up. So what you get these entrepreneurs do is they want to set this business that runs on its own. If you let a business run on its own, it's going to produce the results that the average person can get. You as an entrepreneur you won't accept average. So if you want the business to function the way you want it to, you have to stay involved. Understand they'll never quite get it, and you'll always have to follow up. And if you'll just accept those things today, you'll be much better off, and you'll probably be a bit richer if you realize those things as well.
Well, I've got to tell you, Cleve, as always, we got the gems from Cleve Gaddis. Tell us a little bit about how to reach you for speaking, training, and or to hear your radio show.
So it's real simple. My show is on every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. You can listen to it live on iHeartRadio. The easiest way, though, would be just to go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or SoundCloud and just type in Cleve Gaddis, CleveGaddis, and you can subscribe to the podcast. In fact, I would love it if everybody subscribed to the podcast, because we'll try to fill you full of great details. And if you want to reach out for speaking, I'd love to talk to you, even if it's just to have some discussions and provide some advice and guidance and answer questions. You can reach me at Cleve, CLEVE, at workmansuccesssystems.com. I'll do that one more time. Cleve is short for Cleveland, CLEVE, at workmansuccesssystems.com. And I'd love to talk to anyone. And Terri, I absolutely love you. I adore you. Thank you so much for letting me be a guest. I consider it an honor anytime you let me do something like this, and I appreciate it.
Molto piacere. The pleasure is ours. Thanks for joining us.